Have you ever crossed a line you swore you never would? One glance too long, one touch too close. One night that changes everything. This is the story of Emily, a wife admired by everyone, yet lonelier than anyone could imagine. It began with silence. It turned into desire, and it ended in a forbidden fire that refused to die. She wasn't supposed to be there, not in his room, not this late, not with her silk nightgown brushing against her skin like a secret. But when Emily's eyes met Jason's, everything inside her betrayed her. The silence between them wasn't silence anymore. It was heavy, heated, forbidden. Her lips parted, but no words came. His gaze didn't waver. It lingered on her like a touch she could almost feel. And that was the moment she realized. This wasn't a boy anymore. This was a man staring at her the way no one had in years. Her heart thudded painfully. She should have turned away. She should have left. But she didn't. Instead, she stood frozen as he stepped closer, his breath brushing hers, his scent wrapping around her like temptation itself. "Why are you here?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Why are you?" he whispered back. Her chest tightened, because the truth was too dangerous to say aloud. She was there because she wanted to be, because she missed being wanted, because the loneliness had finally broken her. And when his fingers brushed against hers, just barely, her body lit up with fire. But that moment was only the beginning. To understand how it came to this, we have to go back. Emily was 36, beautiful in a way that stopped people mid-sentence. She had married Richard, a wealthy businessman who seemed perfect from the outside. To the world, they were enviable. Elegant dinners, vacations that looked like magazine spreads, photos of smiling faces. But behind those photos lay silence. Richard's late-night calls, business trips that never ended, his eyes fixed more on his phone than on her. She told herself she was fine, that she had everything. But every night, lying, awake in the cold sheets, the silence grew louder, and then there was Jason. He was 21, Richard's son from his first marriage, tall, sharp-jawed, careless in the way only young men could be. His smile had a danger to it. When Emily first became his stepmother, she thought little of him. He was away at college, barely around. But that summer, he came home, and the house suddenly felt smaller. Conversations stretched longer than they should have. His glances lingered. Sometimes she caught him looking at her in a way that made her chest tighten. And worse, she found herself waiting for it. The first spark came on a rainy night. Richard was away, as always. The storm battered the windows while Emily sat with a glass of wine. Jason came in, drenched, his shirt clinging to his chest. She scolded him gently. "You'll catch a cold." He just smiled, shaking his wet hair. I needed that. Something about the way he said it, like he was talking about more than just the rain, made her pulse quicken. They talked for hours, music, dreams, things she hadn't let herself feel in years. His laughter broke through her walls, and when she finally went to bed, she couldn't stop hearing it. Days passed. The glances grew bolder. One morning at breakfast, she bent to pour coffee and felt his eyes locked on her. The pot nearly spilled as her hand trembled. Nobody noticed, except him. His lips curved in a faint smile. She looked away, but her body stayed flushed long after. Another night, she passed the living room. Jason was sprawled across the couch, reading, his shirt casually unbuttoned. She asked what he was reading. He patted the spot beside him. She hesitated, then sat. Their shoulders brushed. He began to read aloud, but she barely heard the words. All she could hear was her own heartbeat, loud and wild. Then there was the kitchen. She was slicing fruit when his hand reached over hers for a knife. Their fingers brushed, barely, but enough to make her gasp. He leaned in, voice low, teasing. "Relax. It's just a knife." But the way he said it, it wasn't about the knife. And the night the lights went out. A sudden blackout. Emily lit a candle and nearly dropped it when Jason appeared behind her, face glowing in the flicker. "You're jumpy," he whispered. "Maybe you like being scared." Her breath caught. She told him to stop, but he didn't move away. He stayed, close enough that the flame seemed to dance between them, until finally, the hallway moment. She turned and he was there, so close she could feel his warmth. Neither spoke. His eyes dropped to her lips. She felt herself leaning in. The silence broke with footsteps, Richard's voice in the distance. She pulled back, heart pounding, shaken. Jason only smirked, his eyes promising what was inevitable. Each moment was harmless on the surface. A glance, a brush of skin, a silence too long. But together, they built a fire inside her. She couldn't smother. A fire that would consume everything. The night it finally broke, she entered his room with some flimsy excuse. Looking for a charger. Couldn't sleep. He was waiting, as if he had known. The air was heavy, suffocating with what they both wanted but hadn't said. He stepped closer. Her back met the wall. His breath mingled with hers. She whispered, "You know this is wrong?" "Then why does it feel so right?" he murmured. When his lips brushed hers, she didn't resist. The kiss deepened, hungry, desperate, years of loneliness pouring into that one forbidden touch. Her hands clutched his shirt, pulling him closer, hating herself and needing him at the same time. But reality always returns. The sound of a phone buzzing shattered the spell. They broke apart, breathless, terrified, alive. She fled the room, her heart racing. The next days were chaos. She avoided his gaze, but every stolen look pulled her back. He left notes, dangerous invitations, and part of her wanted to give in again, until Richard returned. Something in him had changed. His eyes lingered on her too long. At dinner, his questions were sharp. "You've been quiet," he said, studying her face. She forced a smile, but her hands shook under the table. Then came the first message, a text from an unknown number. "How's your little secret?" Her blood ran cold. Someone knew. Every sound made her jump. Every look from Richard felt like accusation. She confronted Jason, panic in her eyes. He smirked. "Relax. No one knows." But someone did. The messages kept coming. Demands, threats, proof. With each word, the walls of her life began to crumble. One night, Richard confronted her. He didn't shout. He didn't rage. He just asked one question, calm and deadly. "Did you betray me?" Her lips trembled. The silence was her answer. Richard's face hardened. He stood, walked away, and never looked back. The house that once felt too small suddenly felt like a prison. Jason begged her, whispering promises, asking her to run away with him. But every time she looked at him now, she didn't see desire. She saw the ruin of everything she had. On the last night, Emily stood on the balcony, the city lights glowing like scattered embers. The air was cool against her skin, but inside she still burned. Behind her, she heard the soft creak of the door. She didn't have to turn. She knew it was Jason. He stepped close, so close she felt his warmth at her back. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence was heavy but not empty. It was alive, electric, dangerous. When he whispered her name, it wasn't a question. It was a promise. Her eyes closed, her body leaning back just slightly, giving in to the gravity that always pulled her toward him. His hand brushed her arm, gentle but certain, sending a shiver across her skin. "Everything's falling apart," she whispered. "Then let it," he murmured, his lips grazing her ear. Her breath hitched. The world was broken. Yes, her marriage shattered, her secret exposed. But in that one fragile moment, none of it mattered. What mattered was the way he looked at her. Not with pity, not with anger, but with hunger. With need. With the fire she had longed for all her life. And when his mouth finally found hers, it wasn't desperation anymore. It was slow, lingering, romantic in a way that felt cruel. because it made her want forever in something that could never last. When they finally pulled apart, she was breathless, trembling. Jason smiled faintly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "We'll figure it out," he said softly. And though she knew they wouldn't, though deep down she knew this story could only end in ashes, she let herself believe it. Just for that night. Because forbidden fires don't die easily. Sometimes they keep glowing long after everything else has turned to smoke.